Ready for some Asgardians of the galaxy? Props to the internet for that one. You could say the Thor trailer was hella good. I loved it. Marvel unchained its first full teaser trailer for Thor Ragnarok today, but you were probably too busy geeking out over that Hulk cameo to notice all of the awesome details hidden throughout. But don't worry, unlike Ragnarok, it's not the end of the world. We've caught a bunch of those golden blonde Easter eggs and we're breaking them down right now. So let's start with a nice healthy comic plot smoothie.
This drink, I like it.
Ragnarok is taking plot threads from not one, not two, but three classic Marvel comic runs, throwing them into a blender and hitting puree. So which storylines make up this tasty Thor-flavored treat? Oh, it occurred to me what I just said.
This drink, I like it.
Well, obviously, a lot of what we're seeing is directly from the early 2000s Ragnarok arc in which Asgard is destroyed and Thor seemingly dies. And no points for pointing out that Maximus Hulkimus is being lifted straight out of Planet Hulk, probably the most iconic Hulk run of the last 20 years. But the secret ingredient in this Marvel super blend are the elements borrowed from Walt Simonson's Thor run. For those with comic collections that don't stretch back 30 years, Simonson wrote and drew Thor from 1983 to 1987, and his work is generally considered to be the best the character has ever seen. Now, we don't really see any of Simonson's stories affecting the plot in a huge way, but we do see his small touches throughout. Like this shot of Karl Urban's Scourge going ham with those machine guns, or these hell creatures lighting up their eyes when Thor arrives bound in chains. All vintage Simonson, and a nice reminder that Marvel is using only the freshest Thor ingredients for this latest Thor recipe.
This drink, I like it.
And while we're on the topic of borrowing from the best, we got our first real glimpse of Cate Blanchett's HELA in this teaser, and she looks like she leapt straight out of Jack Kirby's pen. The costume design is remarkably close to what Kirby first drew when he introduced the character way back in 1964. Now, you may also notice that she's rocking a black and green color scheme, pretty similar to the one we've seen on Loki since the first Thor movie. Now, this is interesting, because in the comics, HELA is actually Loki's daughter. So are her color choices here a tribute to her dear old dad, or is it just a small aesthetic nod to her parentage in the comics? Well, we're not sure exactly when in the MCU timeline Loki would have gotten the chance to raise a kid, but at the same time, the trickster god definitely seems like he has some deadbeat dad potential in him. You know, tell your daughter you're just going to the corner store to pick up a pack of Infinity Stones and then never come back. I guess we'll have to wait until Ragnarok comes out to see if Loki owes some poor Asgardian single mom a few thousand years of back child support. Oh, what a jerk. And we may have to wait even longer to confirm our other theory about HELA, that she'll be replacing the character of Death in Infinity Wars. Now, Death in the Marvel Universe is famous for friend-zoning Thanos, and it was assumed that she'd be the object of his one-sided affection in the upcoming Infinity Wars films. But everything we see here suggests that her role will be given to HELA in those movies, so let's hope the big purple titan has a thing for chicks with horns. Now, as long as we're on the highway to HELA, oh god, that one is so good. Let's take a look at two more big moments of hers in the trailer. First, her complete and utter destruction of Asgard. Notice the color on these flames engulfing Thor's home in the stars. All orange. Now, sure, I already know where you're going with this, guys. You can argue that it's fire and it's supposed to be orangey, but come on, this is a Marvel movie where fire can be any color it damn well wants. Purple, green, blue. So what could the significance of the orange flames be? Well, a couple of months ago, we theorized that HELA would be holding one of the last remaining Infinity Stones, specifically the Soul Stone. And what color is the Soul Stone, guys? You guessed it. It's orange. So yeah, we're betting that fire-colored fire is actually straight from the Soul Stone itself. But of course, HELA's mic drop moment comes early on in the teaser where she grinds Mjolnir into dust with one hand. Now we're guessing HELA isn't as worthy as the god of thunder, which means her power has to be off the charts in order to wield and obliterate his ultimate weapon, another indication that she's probably got an Infinity Stone in her possession. Now we're also guessing this comes pretty early in the film, maybe even in the first few scenes, as it's the only part that seems to take place on the streets of Marvel's Manhattan. In all likelihood, HELA arrives after Thor seeks out assistance from a certain Sorcerer Supreme. Of course, In the Doctor Strange post-credit scene, Thor is only turning to Stephen Strange for help hunting down Loki, so it will be interesting to see how that ends with all of HELA breaking loose. Maybe he should have just enjoyed that bottomless beer mug. Now, jumping back into the Marvel cosmos, let's talk about Garbage Planet, aka what we're assuming is Planet Hulk, or Sakaar as it's known to the locals. Anyways, notice those wormholes in the background of this shot? Not the first time that we've seen those in the MCU. They provided transportation to the Chitauri when they invaded New York back in the Avengers. Now, this could suggest that the royalty of Sakaar is more in league with Loki than we thought, or maybe just everyone in the MCU uses the same wormhole generating apps. Also, we get our first look at Valkyrie in action, who seems to have a pretty nice gig rounding up contestants for Jeff Goldblum's Battle Arena. And before we call it quits, it's probably also worth talking about what we haven't seen yet. You'll notice that in most of the teaser, Thor still has his beautiful blonde locks brushing his shoulders, which indicates that most of the trailer probably comes from the film's first half, if not the first third. Also, early on in development, Ragnarok was described as a Hulk-Thor buddy pick, so we're assuming all this has to be early on, before the two work buds work out their differences and team up, just like in all the best buddy picks ever made. Also, where's Odin? Did Thor just forget about his dad after the Dark World? First he just ditches on Jane Foster, and now Odin. Thor must be the god of ghosting in the MCU. And one other character we don't see make an appearance in this trailer, Star-Lord. I mean, come on guys. These graphics, the classic rock soundtrack, Thor is clearly borrowing a few plays from the Guardians playbook here, and we wouldn't be surprised at all if he finally meets up with them in a post-credits scene at the end of Ragnarok. But what do you think? Did we miss anything else in the trailer, and what were your favorite moments? Let's discuss. Did you catch the latest episode of Millennial Falcon? It's woke as AF for all of you who like to keep it at 100. Be sure to like and subscribe and keep checking Nerdist.com.